Hey, Hilda here. I bring you experts, experiences, and epic adventures to boost your health. Recently, I was in Istanbul, and you will never guess who I ran into. Matt Maruca of RaOptics. I had him on the Wise Traditions podcast talking all about sunlight. I think we called that one Sunlight, the Greatest Multivitamin Ever, or something like that. So I had to pick his brain about the importance of light and a few other esoteric subjects. Check it out and tell me what you think. You guys, look who I ran into in Istanbul, Matt Maruca. You guys, he is the founder of RaOptics, and I've had him on the Wise Traditions podcast before. He is brilliant when it comes to light things, so we'll talk a little bit about light, but I also want to talk about spiritual light. Is that cool with you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's start with light. Your fascination started back in the day. You were still in high school, I think, and you were trying to heal, right? So what got you into pursuing light as a modality for healing?
Well, basically, I had tried so many different things. Like, I had struggled and I had tried different diets. I had tried supplement regimens and just so many different things that had some effect but didn't have the effect that I was looking for. I knew that there was more. And so I came across some bloggers and different researchers just talking about the role that light plays in health. And it made a lot of sense to me that if basically our metabolism is controlled and the core part of our metabolism is these things called mitochondria, the cellular engines. And they're primarily controlled by light energy, both powered by light energy, primarily from the sun, and also the timing of their function is governed by light, also from the sun, the circadian rhythm it's called. So we change from light and darkness, and it made sense to me then that if these mitochondria engines are disrupted because of disrupted light, no matter how perfect our diet is, we're not going to achieve optimal health because we can't process all that food properly. So it just made sense.
It's so wild to me that most people haven't even heard about this. They don't even think about light. They're just like, oh, I guess I have to switch my diet, avoid carbs or avoid sugar, which all that is fine. But there are literally little clocks in every cell in our body, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That need the light energy from the sun to function properly.
Yeah, it's really that simple. Like, there's a lot more depth to it, and we could go down all sorts of angles. Like, in a way, we could say that, as I mentioned, I'm working with and studying from one of the top light researchers in the world, and one of the most fascinating things I've learned is that basically when you look at the sun, so the sun makes a lot of radiation from the process of hydrogen fusion happening inside the core. But then what happens is, as this process goes on, the sun makes heavier and heavier atoms. So people say, oh, we're all made of stardust. It's actually true because all the matter, all the atoms of the universe are actually manufactured in stars. And so the outer layers of the sun is where they have the heavier materials like iron, metals and things, not like the lighter hydrogen, helium, and so on. And so that's called the chromosphere, one of the outer layers of the sun. And so when this full spectrum light is passing through the sun, through the chromosphere, because all atoms absorb certain wavelengths of light, if you look at the sun that's reaching the Earth, or I should say the light from the sun that's reaching the Earth, you don't actually see a totally full spectrum. If you look at it, and I can show you a picture later, but it's actually broken up by what's called these lines called Fraunhofer lines, by the name of the discoverer. But basically, to put it really simply, the light that's coming from the sun, it's not totally full spectrum. It's lacking these particular atomic absorption spectra of light. What that means is, as the way this doctor explained it to me is, and as I'm studying this and learning, we're basically existing to sort of fill in the gaps. Like, the opportunity for our biology to exist is in these areas where there's no light coming in, and we get to kind of like fill these gaps, if you will. It's something really almost spiritual in its nature. It's really deep and profound, but there's so many aspects to it. But just that's to give a layer of how deep, or an idea of how deep we can go.
Gosh, that is so deep.
Yeah. However, just to make it really useful and practical for people, like if we're just living our life day to day and we're not getting out into nature and getting into sun, it's going to disrupt our health pretty significantly. Like, our body's not going to work. People are going to have sleep issues. They're going to be tired. They're maybe going to feel depressed. They're going to feel like they're lacking color. Their metabolism might not work. They're going to have vitamin D deficiency. And that's all because of light, something that has such a profound impact on our health.
And Matt, what gets me is that people, again, have no idea about this. They spend all day on their computers working, and at night they relax watching Netflix. So it's screens, no natural light, all artificial light. And that's kind of screwing up their health, really.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, because when we get this blue light at night, so the blue wavelengths are what set our body's clock. And when you get this exposure to this blue light at night, it's basically just tricking the brain saying, we need to stay awake because it's time to wake up. And then that's disrupting the production of melatonin, which simply put is the most important antioxidant, anti-aging, and anti-cancer molecule in the body for repairing us while we sleep. And if you lower the levels of melatonin, it increases all sorts of risks of disease, and it's also lowering the function of the immune system, so people have more risk of infectious diseases. And it's literally as simple as just disruption of our sleep causing these issues.
Can you say that phrase again about melatonin? It's anti-aging, anti-cancer.
Yeah, and antioxidant.
Antioxidant. What? And everybody's busy trying to eat blueberries.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
When melatonin can have the right function when you get enough natural light.
Yes, exactly. It's really simple, getting natural light during the day to help set the system, and then avoiding bright blue light, high energy, bright light at night that disrupts our rhythm.
Wow. Well, I can say
really
this.
Simple.
I've started living according to these principles because I learned about them from you and Dr. Jack Cruz and Thaddeus Owen, another friend of mine who's been on my YouTube channel and podcast as well. And I have to say, I feel like I've so much energy, probably much more than people half my age, which is amazing. So I'm so thankful. But so now I want to talk a little bit about the spiritual light you're kind of referring to. As you've been pursuing well-being, how do you see spirituality as a part of that healthy life?
Yeah, so even if I took it a step further, as I was studying light to improve my health and using it, I saw, for example, I saw a big improvement with food and diet and supplements to start, because it's important. But then I saw an even bigger improvement in my experience in health, and it just made more sense to me when I understood light. But I still felt like something was missing. It's like I just had almost like a state of dis-ease, like uneasiness on a daily basis. It just felt like something wasn't right. I was still worrying about a lot of stuff, running my own business, helping people improve their health with light, blue light protection glasses in particular, as you know. But I was still in my head a lot, struggling, and so I just started to look what else could there be? What else might I not know? And I came across the work of different older spiritual teachers and spiritual masters, and then modern people like Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when I started studying from Joe Dispenza, it just made so much sense to me that really we affect the way that our energy is utilized. So I had learned that we're beings of energy in our bodies based on light, but we're actually consciously choosing how that light, that energy is being used and being directed and moving and just going in our day-to-day life, just with our mind. Our mind's a really powerful thing. People say it a lot like a cliche, but I actually think it's totally true. I realized as soon as I started to identify certain thought patterns, certain ways of thinking, limiting beliefs that were holding me back, and I just started to observe, I noticed so many different things, that I was actually living my life in a constant state of stress, survival, and that more than any bad food, any harmful light, I was constantly actually putting myself in that state. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we can't necessarily separate the immediate experience of that state of suffering or a state of pleasure from an actual health effect. And so in a way, I was creating a constant state of stress, suffering, disease, just by having these limiting beliefs.
Time to take cover.
Yeah.
This doesn't surprise me. I come from a Christian faith background. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. There are also all these verses in the Bible that talk about light and how if the eye is not sound, then it's all darkness. There are all these illustrations kind of pointing the way to living in the light, which might just be, in part, having more clarity about what's real and what's not true. What do you think of that?
I think it's really, really important. It's so interesting because I didn't grow up with any particular religion, but as my life went on, I was exposed to some different Buddhist ideas, Hindu ideas, Christian ideas, and it just kind of pulled me because it made sense. I was raised, as I kind of described, in a more atheist fashion in a world that was sort of lacking a deeper meaning. And so naturally, I think, as I started to be exposed to these ideas or certain people with meaning, with some real meaning and profundity to what they were sharing, I was drawn to it. I was attracted to having something solid to stand on, as opposed to just sort of standing on shifting sands, and
Yes.
basing my life on that. And it made sense that there actually is some purpose. I don't necessarily know what it is or fully understand or even claim to, but that there is some purpose to this life, and that for me, it's not the common belief I think a lot of people hold is that like you're just going to be born and then you're going to be dead and then it's over and it was all meaningless. Like that there actually is a meaning and there is a reason to do good in this life and be a good person and do good things and leave the world better than you found it and evolve yourself, and that's actually not just like somewhat significant, but that's like maybe the most significant thing ever and the most important thing, and just the fulfillment one can get in like truly opening their heart and being vulnerable and showing love and like inspiring others. Like if you look at, we talked about Steve Jobs earlier, like someone who really shown them their light forth to the world and how it can make the hairs on our neck stand up and give us goosebumps. Like there's really something there, and I think people know it, and people are waking up to the fact that there's much more to life than, as Joe Dispenza says, there's a lot more to reality than this dream that we're in, and we want to discover it and actually live to a greater potential.
100%. And yeah, life is so much more than just you grow up, you go to college, you get a job, then you retire, you know what I mean? And I think I'm so grateful actually for this season where we've been through a lot as a world these past 2 years, because I feel like people are realizing, hey, what really matters here and what is my purpose? And those are great questions to step into the light of your purpose and the purpose of your life.
I would totally agree. Like my experience has been not going to college, and pardon me. So I didn't go to college because I had, at an early age, gotten into this whole health journey. And from the things I was reading, some of the stuff about, the whole risk to our health of electromagnetic fields, but specifically how a lot of this information about health, that being one, was kind of covered up from the people at large by sort of, we could almost say conspiracy theories, like literally just the government not taking the action to share this information that they knew about, that there's a big risk to lots of radio frequencies, and now we use Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and cell phones all the time, but before that there was a known risk and it wasn't exposed and brought out. And that just gave me a lot of distrust, like I don't know if I want to go to college. Like it almost made me, I think, overly more than I'd like to be distrustful, and I'm learning to kind of overcome that as well. But the reason I share this is because I decided to not follow the standard path and just go straight to college and do this. I did graduate high school, but then I thought, like, I want to start my own business. I want to have the freedom to go out into the world and study and learn and do my own thing. And I really feel like I've learned so much from going this way, because like people are taught, I mean, this is just one simple thing. I'll leave the listener to take the meaning of this for themselves. But what I want to share is that they talk about, people say, go to college and you're going to get a degree and it's going to put you in a really great position. Well, I didn't do that. I just started a business off something that I was passionate about. I had no idea if it would be successful. I just tried. I just gave it a shot. And with only my own money, because the system wants to support people going to college. And I ended up meeting some of the most famous and influential people in the world just because they even reached out to me. They saw what I was doing. Like, I built such a strong network of amazing people like yourself, just really cool people who, if I need anything, I can reach out to someone or the other for something. And it's like, this is way better than a college degree. And I can only imagine what the world would be like if everyone went out and built a network. And so, having studied more about the system of education, sadly but truthfully, if you look at the core, more and more it looks like college is like daycare for adults, like people who are, it's time to be adults. But more importantly, it's like the system, even primary school, like elementary and primary school, there's a great resource. It's called The 6 Lesson School Teacher. It's an essay by a guy named John Taylor Gatto, who was like such a high level educator in primary schools and high schools throughout his career that he even received awards in the state of New York. But he actually, upon reflection after retiring, understood like how detrimental what he was doing. And the main lessons he writes in The 6 Lesson School Teacher is that like your job is to not be creative. It's to sit and not speak unless you're given the opportunity to speak. So it's like training people to be obedient. And it's not, I'm not sitting here saying like this is conspiracy theory, like someone's out to get us. It's just, as I've come to believe more and more, we should all look internally and see like we're accepting this like sort of, I think, subjugation of our potential. It's not like someone's doing it to us. And that there's so much more for people who want to do something different, like, and express their full potential. I think we need to have to individually overcome this tendency, because I felt it for many years, this tendency to want to have someone to tell me what to do. I always felt it a lot of the time running my business, like, in a way, it was so difficult. I want someone to just tell me what to do. But I finally learned, like, no, the real challenge is like when you don't have someone to tell you what to do and finding that meaning yourself.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So you guys consider this permission to think about your light health? Like, are you getting exposure to natural light? And how much artificial light may be damaging your health, but also consider this permission to explore kind of the light within, like he's saying, to explore thinking outside the box, to consider thinking for yourself and forging a new path. You don't have to conform to society's norms. I really find this thinking very kind of encouraging and exciting, because it means you can write your own story. And whatever your faith background, know that there is light that's going to be shed. There's going to be truth that's going to come your way that's going to help guide you on the path. Do you think so, Matt?
I totally agree. I don't know if there's anything else I can add to that. I mean, like, one of the most important things I've learned, what I would add, is from Joe Dispenza and even these spiritual masters. Like, it's actually possible if we just relax, and it might not feel safe for people in the beginning, but if we really just like relax ourselves, like open our breath, like we can feel this state of like this warmth and this joy and bliss in our heart. And like we actually can just live in this like chill, relaxed state. We don't always have to be worried about like that thing that we didn't get done for the day. We can just like take it easy, and it's such a nice invitation. But like I personally, like every day, I'm still having to learn that lesson over and over and over again. Like even if I have so many things going on with the business, like I don't have to constantly be attaching to that next thing. It's this idea of the present moment, and it's so elusive for so many of us, myself included. But finally, I've learned to just try to practice like to me, all it means is just like relax and take it easy, and everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, kind of let the light in. We were talking earlier about The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and he says you can feel your heart closing at times when there's a situation that you consider a danger or somebody's provoking you. Let's just say you can literally feel it closing, and you can choose to open, which is like what you're saying, relaxing. And it is blowing my mind when I tune into my own spirit, and I want to have an open heart so that I can give and receive love freely, right, as opposed to closing down. So I love that this conversation has gone from the physical light stuff to the spiritual light stuff, and I'm so glad I ran into you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and click on the notification bell so you can find out the next time I upload a video. Hasta pronto!